Let me just share my screen.
Oh, why? Yan, pwede na yan. Dami yung alam.
Okay, I think I just did that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Let me make sure. Okay, great. Thank you, Monique, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Magandang gabi po sa akin dito sa California. It is my pleasure to be here today with all of you to share my experiences of what it is like to work at one of the big software companies. But before I go there, I'd like to share with you a story that reminded me of when I first thought about working at a software company. It was the summer of high school graduation. A friend and I were chatting while walking up Session Road in Baguio City. In that conversation, I thought to ask, after finishing school and starting work and all of that, what is your ultimate career dream? You know, what would you hope to accomplish after all that schooling? She told me what she hoped to do, and it was a pretty big dream. I was actually blown away. Then she turned to me and asked me the same question. And I said, I wanted to work for Microsoft. This was in 1997. The internet was just starting, and Google did not even exist. Working for Microsoft was not something that felt achievable to me when I said that. I just remembered reading the story of how Bill Gates started Microsoft and is one of the biggest software companies in the world. At that time, it felt more of a lofty goal. And since she and I were talking about big dreams, so why not? I had no clue where to start or how to get there, but I kept the idea nonetheless. So the takeaway I'd like you to have from the story is that it's okay to dream big. Even when you don't quite know how to get there, let that be your North Star as you progress in your career. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Baguio City. After high school, I moved to California, and I now reside in the Bay Area with my husband and kids. I completed my primary and secondary schooling in the Philippines. The summer after high school graduation, I immigrated to the US to join my family, who moved to California a few years earlier. I completed my bachelor's in computer science and engineering at UCLA, and while working full-time, I pursued and completed my master's in computer science at USC. Here's a snapshot of my career. At my last year at UCLA, I worked as an academic part-time at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. After college, I worked as a software engineer at Northrop Grumman. And then after that, I was interested in startups, so I worked with a few of them for about 45 years. And then in 2012, I interviewed at Google and ultimately joined the company in that same year. In May of 2021, I turned in my resignation in order to pursue one of my longtime interests of starting my own software company. Together with 3 other people, I am now building an online service in the e-commerce space. So now that you know a little bit about me and my background, I'll continue on to the main topic of what it's like to work at a big tech company. So I was at Google for about 8.5 years and worked on 3 different products.
Lupit, no?
That's Google My Business, Shopping, and Photos. So I came in as a software engineer at the Google My Business product. I was basically a full stack engineer there, even though I was hired into the team as an iOS engineer. I had strong interest in learning the server side of things, and so I also started creating and implementing the front-end APIs that the mobile app was talking to. I learned to deploy my code on the Google infrastructure, which means I had to understand the deployment configuration and infrastructure, integrate the server monitoring systems, and many other things. That's one of the things that Google generally looks for in a candidate, is the ability to adapt and quickly get up to speed with any technology a project uses or needs. Google Shopping was the second product I worked on, where I was also primarily working on the iOS app, but also implementing the server API changes. This was also the time where I went on leave for 8 months with my first child, then went and got promoted within 4 months of coming back from leave. Going for my first promotion was a positive experience for me as a woman and a first-time mother at Google, because my career progression was not impacted despite taking a long time off to have a child. So the last and longest project I worked on was Google Photos. I was there for almost 6 years. Again, I was hired in as an iOS engineer, got promoted and became a technical lead manager, having up to 7 engineers reporting to me. After 4 years in Photos, I moved to the machine intelligence team, where I developed one of the memories features seen on top of the Google Photos app. From my experience in the products I was involved in, I was able to have as much responsibility as I want, and within reason, have opportunities to explore and be involved in the things that are interesting to me. Moving to the machine intelligence team is an example of that. I had a strong interest in learning more about AI and machine learning, that I was able to move to a team in Photos that allowed me to do that. I also mentioned earlier about promotion at Google, and in the engineering ladder, getting promoted is not something that your manager decides alone. It is something that is applied for. It requires peers and managers to write feedback of support, data showing that you already operate in that next level for at least 6 months. Then a committee would review the evidences and make a decision. Applying for a promotion can be hard and can be a source of stress for most, but once you get it, it's worth it. So I'm going to take a break from the career stuff and talk a little bit about the other fun perks of working at Google. I can only mention a few of them because there are just really too many to mention. So the campuses have many restaurants where the employees have a pick of the type of food they want to eat. And I'm referring to choices such as whether to have an omelet for breakfast, or sushi for lunch, or Korean barbecue for dinner. Then in the afternoon, choose whether to have a matcha latte or a non-fat sugar-free vanilla latte for your drink. There are also many amenities on site, such as gyms, swimming pools, tennis courts, and many more. This makes it very convenient to take on sports or hobbies. I, in particular, had taken tennis classes in the middle of my day that are offered on site. I had also learned how to cook by taking an 8-week cooking program offered for free by the kitchen staff at one of the Google cafes. The other non-tangible perks of working there is that you also get to work with really smart people on large-scale problems. Most have advanced degrees or come from the top universities in the world. The other perk I also really like is the community. There are so many internal groups on different topics, such as parenting, being a new mom, being a woman engineer, or just connecting with other Filipinos at Google. You can develop friendships through there, and you can also tap into the knowledge of the community, which are generally helpful. So continuing on to the career stuff, one of the roles I had at Google is an iOS tech lead. At a high level, these 4 things are mostly my responsibilities. The main thing I notice about managing that is different compared to other companies is that the relationship between the manager and the board is generally collaborative. As a manager, I wouldn't just tell my reports what to work on, I would also seek their input on what projects they want to work on. It is also generally frowned upon at my org for managers to be micromanaging, for telling the reports what and how to do their projects in detail.
Full storage ang potek.
In addition,
Damn.
coaching a report to grow
Hindi
professionally
ko na marirecord
is
to.
also
Full
considered
storage na
part
ako.
of the
Bye-bye.
manager's role.